Good evening, and I'd like to welcome you to a hopefully short talk on something that I've been looking into occasionally for about 15 years. The talk is called Political Cartoon History Without the Misogyny, and our subject is Mary Darley. I need to do a bit of a shout out to Dr. Mark Bryant, Dr. Sheila O'Connell, and Dr. Louise Raw, because they have basically, despite the odds, managed to look into the subject. I've been published in the New Statesman, the Times Educational Supplement, Tribune, Morning Star, The Guardian, the Index on Censorship, and The Independent as a political cartoonist. When I was on The Guardian, I did holiday cover for Martin Rawson and Steve Bell, and that was on rotation for about a month. When I first got into this, about 15 years ago, there was a prescriptive career route through a supposed academic of political cartooning. I went for a portfolio viewing where, let's just call him Dr. X, where he, after watching, looking at my portfolio, telling me how rubbish it was and to give up, and told me that there never has been, there currently wasn't, and there never will be a female political cartoonist. I've always, the thing is that as soon as he said that, my own I knew that the premise that he suggested, that female political cartoonists, unlike a Hogarth and Gilray from the start of pictorial satire, didn't exist, was going to be a false premise. When I went to art college, I rocked into my first art lecture, and we were given a curriculum list of all the artists we were going to study as part of art history, and it was 52 male artists, and I remember scanning it and thinking, how odd. And then he sort of chipped in, after having a bit of, some of the other women were saying, what? Where are the female artists? And he chipped in Barbara Hepworth. I like Barbara Hepworth, but it makes me cringe whenever I hear the name. So anyway, I wrote an open letter to the dean saying that I was boycotting the lectures, but I would fulfill my written art history, and I put in. I basically found every female artist for every art movement. The only art movement that I couldn't find any female artists were the vorticists, and they were kind of like a little bit into their sort of phallus waving, shall we say. It was all very macho, very Mussolini. So I knew that that she would probably actually exist, that they would exist. At the time, I remember trying to say to the art lecturer that as women we need our role models if we're going to college. There was, I remember somebody saying about how men go to art college to learned to be artists, and women went to art college to make art. So anyway, I eventually started doing my own research after this encounter with this so-called academic, and I was rather surprised. So here we have the first book on caricature, printed by Mary Darley in 1762. I was pretty shocked. I remember the first time I went into the Cartoon Museum. Big shout out to the Cartoon Museum, they are brilliant people. I always remember getting my first cartoon displayed there. It was just, yeah, a major honour. So the official descriptive description of her, which was that she was just a print seller, and she was a publisher. Something told me. I remember the weekend that I actually found her, and I was doing online research, and I remember finding her. I had to find her through her husband first, because a lot of her work was actually, even though her name is actually written on the bottom of it as the person that's, drawn it, a lot of it was catalogued as her husband's work. We'll jump straight in here. These are a couple of pages of the book that she published on caricaturing. Strangely, years ago when I was teaching teenagers to cartoon, I actually found these on the internet, and we were using them as teaching aids. Didn't even know it was a woman. Here's another page of the manual. Now, one of the things when I was doing research was that I kind of made a pilgrimage to the Strand to try and find her house, and it was sort of very symbolically a big gap. There was just a big hole where the house would have been, and a walkway through and a bank beside it. And I had a little bit of a scout around it. About a street away we have the Temple Church, which is extraordinary. When you go in, there's this ring of gargoyles, and one of the things about gargoyles is that the guys making these cathedrals would actually satire people that they knew in gargoyles that were up out of the way, and nobody could see them. Like sometimes, maybe a foreman might turn up, but I just found it very sort of like interesting that would have been somewhere, like it would have been 2 seconds from her place. But yeah, the talk about caricaturing. As I was saying, Mark Bryant, in his article, History Today article that I found in 2008, talks about caricaturing was basically a woman's pastime. It was brought by a Italian noblewoman who was actually born around about the same time as Hogarth, died 6 years before. So one of the things that she is also characterised historically as being non-political. The thing is that in America, she's held in a lot of the collections in America, and when they have a show on pictorial satire, they get her out and hang her alongside Hogarth, and nobody seemed to know about her. So this is Bunkers Hill. She actually, according to London Lives online digital, I always had the feeling that she was, Dr. Tim Hitchcock of London Lives.org. I always had the feeling that she was pro-America, was one of the reasons why we don't hear about her. It's on the electoral roll that her husband voted for Lord North. Okay, I mean, it's clearly a pictorial satire. Right. If anybody can find me a better copy of this, the last copy that I saw has some kind of, it's kind of like a proto-feminist kind of, I think I remember, but I think this was talking about how we're all the same, no matter what sex we are, we want the same things. We want liberty, we want freedom, we want, etc., etc. But yeah, if anybody can dig me up a copy of that again. If you go down to the hand, she's basically pointing at things to look at. This is apparently the lady herself. Dr. Sheila O'Connell is doubtful it is her because it was edited by Horace Walpole. If it was her, she would have been 32. I kind of think it is her. I think she's pregnant at the time, actually. One of the things that is an interesting little... come back. One of the things that's an interesting little thing to look at on this print is to look closely at the image that she's holding. As the gentleman is... I don't think that's the hilt of a sword that gentleman is polishing. I kind of think it's her. So, very often when you're trying to find women in art history, you have to have a look at the men around them to kind of discern what's going on here. Interestingly, one of my theories is that there was bad blood between... I think that Darley and Hogarth knew each other, and there was bad blood between them. This is because of this gentleman here. This is John Wilkes. He's actually responsible for Hansard existing, where they could record what was going on, and he was a bit of a notorious rake. This is by Hogarth. Now, Mary Darley's husband saved his life, reputedly. Now, the thing is, the other sort of conjecture that I've had is that, it's always a small world. The bad blood between John Wilkes and he was a bit of an Assange character when he was early on in his career. He was a bit of a rake. He anonymously published very bawdy satirical works. The fallout between him and Lord Sandwich happened at Mendlesham Abbey, otherwise known as the Hellfire Club, where John Wilkes reputedly dressed a baboon as the devil and then released it at the height of... because they used to do mock religious ceremonies. It was all very sort of post-Reformation. It's very sort of fashionable to kind of diss religion, and I suppose there's no other comparable time other than this time to, sort of like the freedoms for, women. I do think Mendlesham Abbey, perhaps one of its major blasphemies was that there were actually women members. Lady Montague was a member. She was the woman that brought the understanding of inoculation to this country. I did find a Mary Darley set of prints of the abbess of something or other, and I always wondered if they were all hanging out and getting into fights and all the rest of it, and going in those same kind of circles. So anyway, back to John Wilkes. So the thing is that Hogarth was well in with Mendlesham Abbey. This is Sir William Dashwood. This is actually painted by Hogarth at his I can't, the name escapes me. So Hogarth was hanging out in these circles quite a bit, and the attempt on Wilkes' life, which Mary's husband intervened on, I think probably brought them all into each other's circles. Now, Hogarth actually drew this when Wilkes was up in court for being uncovered. I think it was the North Briton, this kind of like anonymous satirical broady publication, taking the mick out of the government of the day and various people. This was done to actually diss Wilkes, but people actually bought it because as like a poster, they'd buy anything with Wilkes on at the time. He was very popular. Now, one of the things that I found was, oh yeah, this is a cartoon Mary did on the attempt on John Wilkes. It's sort of like it refers to the Jacobean situation. The Lord Bute. I think that there was a great deal of discomfort in the government of the day with the sort of like Scottish influences here. But yeah, I think she took quite offence to the attempt on John Wilkes' life. Apparently John Wilkes could chat anybody up in a room, even though he was badly cross-eyed. Obviously he had some great chat-up lines. Yeah, so the thing with Hogarth is that this is one of his last slides, time, and you can't see it on this print, but he actually has, this is John Wilkes here, oops, sorry, this is John Wilkes here, and this guy's actually urinating on him. So I reckon there was some considerable bad blood down there. The thing is that Mary did a retort to this Hogarth image of John Wilkes. This is Mary's retort to Hogarth, where you see his the finger pointing to the John Wilkes image there. I presume this is Hogarth's wife. So yeah, I reckon one of the things when you study history, the joy of it, is that nothing really changes. Yeah, so yeah, that's a bit of an outline of some of the stuff that I mean, there's loads more that I've been thinking about. It's just really difficult to research. I've been down to the British Museum print room. That was my 40th birthday present, was to go down and go through the box with her stuff. God, maybe 15 years ago. Not 15 years ago. 2. Okay, so that's it. Thank you very much. And anybody wants to add any information that they know about Mary, please do get in contact. Thank you.